design of a product and the success of a project is actually dependent on a lot of people, right? And it's dependent on a lot of factors and things or skills and capabilities beyond design. So when you're designing a project or a product, you're obviously, we're a company that's in the business of making things. So we've got to make things, we've got to sell things. So we've got people from sales and marketing, we've got people from manufacturing, we've got designers, we've got product planners, we've got researchers, we've got strategists, we've got finance people. And I bring everybody to the table on day one. And I say, guys, this is kind of sort of what we're looking to do. How do we do it? And I think it's incredibly important for designers. The earlier they can understand this in their careers, the better. It's incredibly important for designers to understand that design is a very small part of the process. I'd say it's about 10%. The rest of it is 90%. So if you can understand the language that everybody else speaks, I think that's what's going to make a really successful product. I carry around some of my collection. So when I talked about my pants, the clothes that I was wearing during the talk, there was that. I've got usually things in my pockets. So this is a pencil by a company called Carandash. Very, very simple. It's called a fixed pencil. It's made of aluminum, metal, very, very few parts. It's very light. It's basically got the same size and shape as a wood pencil and a very similar weight, so it's actually lovely to write with. I really like this company called Swatch. And I think Swatch, by now they're the world's largest watchmaking company, right? What's very cool is that they're very, very high quality watches, but they're extremely affordable. So the movement that's inside this particular watch, it's called System 51, is probably the nicest automatic watch movement in modern times. And these guys can take something like that, which is super advanced, super hardcore, and you can buy this for slightly more than $100, just like 8,000 rupees. So I also like Muji, Japanese company that makes everyday products. I like Braun, B-R-A-U-N, from Germany. They have a history, legacy of making stuff. Tend not to talk about Apple because everybody talks about Apple, but they're not bad. And so I live by the calendar. So I use iCal and Google Calendar. We synchronize all of this stuff. But it's everything from answering approximately 200 emails that come through, which I don't really like doing, so I do that super late at night. The thing that really gets me going, though, is seeing that I've actually enabled other people to do what they do best. So I have a lot of designers who work with me. We've got product designers, we've got textile designers, we've got engineers of all kinds, we've got material sciences people. I even have a doctor on my team, an actual trained medical professional. And in order for them to be able to give me their best, I need to make it possible for them to do their best. So if I had to sum up in one line, that's really what I do. So this is the time when I was actually teaching design as well. So the way I taught design was always in the frame of social entrepreneurship. So do good for the world, absolutely. But do it in a self-sustaining and a profitable way. So you can pay yourself a salary. You can make sure that you have enough money to keep your company or your venture going. And that you're not dependent on the kindness of strangers to fund you, right? Because if they're paying you money, if they're giving you money, then they're also driving your efforts in whichever way they want to drive their efforts. So the wheelchair project was something that sort of came about when I had my own startup. And we had a visitor who came into the office. And this person had had spinal cord injury. Now, when you have spinal cord injury, basically you are confined to a wheelchair for life from that point on. Now, this person was an architect, very highly trained, and he had trouble getting into our office because there was a spring-loaded door. Now, if you're in a wheelchair and there's a door that you're trying to pull, but the door is pulling you towards itself because you're on wheels, it's difficult to even get into the door of any company. Or if you go to a Starbucks, you can't even get into a building. How are you supposed to do your work? All of us are used to sitting at tables and working on computers and things like that. How does a person in a wheelchair do that? The heights are completely different. When you travel on a plane, you can't take your wheelchair with you because the aisle of the plane between those seats is so narrow that a regular wheelchair can't get through. So you have to either be carried, which is a dehumanizing experience, or there's a special narrow chair, which is not even a chair, it's like a little podium on 4 tiny wheels, and they will literally push you to your seat. Now your wheelchair is traveling with luggage in the plane. And most of the time when a wheelchair gets out of that experience, it's broken. So now you've arrived at your destination and you are powerless to do anything, right? And this came out of one conversation, two conversations that most of you realize, I mean, this is such a big deal. And in all of these years of developing wheelchairs, nobody's really done anything about this, right? So people in wheelchairs are as productive as any of us. They just need the right tools. And so that's why the nonprofit was started. When I was growing up, when I was their age, I don't think there was any internet, right? And so access to information for us was through books or through products that people would bring back from outside India, because, you know, you can't buy a lot of stuff in India. I remember in the early to mid 90s was when I had my first exposure to a computer, right? So in our time, everybody has access to so much information. So what I would encourage your students to do is, great, you're studying one particular field, you're studying to be one particular kind of professional, but learn as much as you can about what everybody else does. So read about medicine, read about design, read about technology, because you're going to have to work with all of those people later. And the more you know about what they do, the more successful you're going to be.